Let me start. Things the press has not told you that you need to share with your friends. The way Barack Obama talks about his father, Barack Sr. This is what he has said about how Barack Sr., his dad, arrived in America for school. It is a lie.
The Kennedys decided we're going to do an airlift. We're going to go out to Africa. And we're going to start bringing young Africans over to this country and give them scholarships to study so that they can learn what a wonderful country America is. And this young man named Barack Obama got one of those tickets and came over to this country.
Okay, that's not true. He says the Kennedys decided to do a program. John F. Kennedy wasn't even president when Barack Sr. arrived in Honolulu. Harry Belafonte was the one who helped fund Barack Sr. And there's nowhere in the news, we just released it last week, that there was a warning to our State Department that the group that was coming in was anti-white and anti-American. That included his father. That came from the MI5 and MI6 in England. Obama Sr. was able to take advantage of the program, not from the Kennedys, but from Jackie Robinson and Harry Belafonte. Why would he lie about that? Is it a better political story that JFK is roped into it? I don't know. But it's not true. But it is the beginning of a storyline. And that's exactly what it is, a story. It's not true. It's a Hollywood movie script. There's the fable that he spins about his parents getting together as a result of the march on Selma, Alabama.
There's some good craziness going on because they looked at each other and they decided we know that in the world as it has been, it might not be possible for us to get together and have a chat. But something's stirring across the country because of what happened in Selma, Alabama, because some folks are willing to march across a bridge. And so they got together and Barack Obama Jr. was born.
Okay, the only problem with that is that Barack Obama Jr. was born 4 years before there was a march on Selma. 4 years before Barack Obama Jr. was born. But he continues to weave the lie.
So don't tell me I don't have a claim on Selma, Alabama. Don't tell me I'm not coming home when I come to Selma,
You're not
Alabama.
coming home. You don't have a claim.
I'm here because somebody marched.
No, you're not there because somebody marched. You were born in 1961, sir. The Selma March was 1965. Tell me how that incredible slow sperm was working. Mr. President, you are not coming home when you come to Selma, Alabama. That is a fabrication. Why and where is the press? Now, during his coming out speech, and I mean that not to be confused with the coming out speech of this week, the coming out speech in 2004 at the DNC. I watched it. We were told that he was a young moderate uniter. I thought this guy's story is amazing, but it's a lie, and we're about to prove it. He was a fresh, post-racial, post-partisan politician, and he began his speech with this.
Let's face it, my presence on this stage is pretty unlikely. My father was a foreign student, born and raised in a small village in Kenya. He grew up herding goats, went to school in a tin roof shack. His father, my grandfather, was a cook, a domestic servant to the British.
Okay. First of all, according to Barack Obama Sr.'s first wife, so this isn't going to a neighbor, a friend, somebody who knew him in high school like the Washington Post. This is Barack Obama Sr.'s wife, Kezia. She says that's not true. It's not true. Barack Sr. married Kezia. This is important. Barack Sr. married Kezia when he was 18. She was 16. Her parents were upset, wanted her to come back home, so Barack Obama Sr.'s father gave Kezia's family 14 cows as a dowry. Now, how many British servants have 14 cows to which they can use to buy a wife for their son? My dad was a baker. He wasn't a servant to the British. My father couldn't have rustled up 14 cows to be able to buy my first wife.
He could barely get up like 8 ounces of ground round.
For my first wife?
Yeah, for your first wife? I mean, I'm not...
But you're digressing here.
Yes.
Barack Obama continued.
My parents shared not only an improbable love, they shared an abiding faith in the possibilities of this nation.
They shared the possibilities. They had an improbable love. Yes, indeed, that is true. It is improbable. But not for the reasons he's making you believe at this point. Barack Sr. was still married to the woman I just told you about, Kezia. When he came over here, he was married, and with the 14 cows, married to Kezia. He had 2 children with her. Then he came over here, and he met Sally Ann Dunham. Or is it Stanley?
Yeah, Stanley.
Stanley. Who marries her?
Her dad wanted a boy.
So anyway, Barack and Ann never even shared the same home. They never had the same resident. Not to mention the fact that 1 week after Barack Obama was born, Barack's mom, Ann Dunham, took Barack and left Hawaii and enrolled in the University of Washington, Seattle, leaving Barack Sr. behind in Hawaii. They never shared a house. She got pregnant. A week after the baby was born, she moves. Excuse me? By the time she came back to Hawaii, Barack had already left for good. He went first to Boston, Harvard, where he would meet and marry yet a 3rd woman. He's still married to Kezia. Then to Barack's mom. Then he leaves and he goes to Boston and he marries a 3rd woman named Ruth. And he takes her back to Kenya with him, where his first wife, to whom he's still married, waits for him. If anybody wants to talk about a polygamous family, here it is. So it is an improbable love story. A really kind of good word for that kind of love, improbable. As far as his parents' abiding faith in the possibilities of this nation, Anne lived much of her life in Indonesia, Pakistan, and elsewhere. Barack Sr. got his degree free, first-class education in Hawaii, and Ivy League's Harvard. And then he hightailed it back to Kenya, never to return, other than a month-long visit to Hawaii when Barack Jr. was 10 years old. So he accepted a priceless American education and then used it to benefit himself and Kenya, not a problem. But what did he use it for? To promote his brand of socialism and communism in his homeland's government. Look it up. The dreams from my father. Communism and socialism. Now, at his star-making speech in 2004, he was weaving quite a tale that we now can verify all untrue.
They would give me an African name, Barack, or Blessed, believing that in a tolerant America, your name is no barrier to success.
Okay, that's not true. He was called Barry for his whole childhood. Why? They gave him the name Barack, but they called him Barry. Why? Well, you can find in Dreams from My Father. Obama says his mother advised him not to switch from being called Barry to Barack for fear of what his African name might mean for him in America. In fact, the only time that he switched it, when did he switch it? He switched it when he was hanging out with the radicals, the communists, and the feminists. That's when he switched it. And his family said no. In his book, Dreams from My Father, it detailed his struggles, such as that one. Other racial tensions causing him confusion about his place in the world. It all set the tone for this post-racial excitement that his legion of followers and the press felt. In the book, he tells a heartbreaking story of visiting his mom at work one day at the U.S. Embassy when the family had moved in with his stepfather to Indonesia. He leafed through a copy of Life magazine, found some shocking photos, and an article about a black man. He said he'd never forget it. It made a huge impression on him. Life magazine with these photos of this man who was so uncomfortable with the color of his skin that he actually bleached his skin in an effort to become white. It was so shocking and a rude awakening for little Barack at the time. What it meant to live life as a black man, he said, it was a pivot point. It changed the way he looked at life in America. Unfortunately, when Life, the magazine, was contacted for details of the story, nobody had ever run that. Life said that story never ran in Life magazine. So Barack was contacted. Well, it was probably Ebony. Ebony was called. No, it was. No, it wasn't Ebony. Well, who knows what it was? Who knows? I do. It was a lie. It was yet another story point that was important to create this mythical man. Another unnerving racial story in Obama's brilliant and moving autobiography that showcased the racial division he had overcome was a story of his white girlfriend in New York, whose name we now know just in the last week. He met her when he moved to Columbia and decided to go to school in Columbia and moved to New York. One particular night, he tells this great story about going to a play by a black playwright in the city. And Barack found that his play was extremely funny, but she came out confused. And here's what he writes. After the play was over, my friends started talking about why black people were so angry all the time. I said it was a matter of remembering. Nobody asked the Jews why they remember the Holocaust, I think I said. And she said, that's different. I said, no, it's not. She said, where's that anger? That anger is just at a dead end, Barack. We had a big fight right in front of the theater. When we got back into the car, she started crying. She said, I can't be black. I would if I could, but I can't. I can only be myself, and that wasn't enough. Well, when the press finally decided to contact the girlfriend, she said, I don't even know what that story is about. That never happened. At least not with me. Oh, yeah, Barack remembers now. That was a compression. That was a composite girlfriend. When I was describing my girlfriend, I used many women and many different things to... Really? How do you have a compression composite conversation about race? Answer, you don't. Who knows what it was? I do. A lie. Again. This uniter, this post-racial icon of hope and change, stirred the racial stew to the point to where he even threw his beloved grandmother under the bus. And we're going to pick it up there when we come back, because this is where it becomes truly frightening.